consent is, maybe we should also discuss what consent is not. So, consent is not refusing to acknowledge a no. Consent is not assuming that wearing certain clothes, flirting, and kissing is an invitation for anything more. Consent is not being under the legal age of consent. Consent is not being incapacitated because of drugs. Consent is not pressuring someone into sexual activity because of fear or intimidation. Then consent is not assuming you have permission to engage in sexual acts because you've done it before. Consent cannot be construed to mean inability to physically resist. Consent ceases to be consent if there is deception or if there is fraud. So fraud can take place in two ways. It can be fraud in the inducement or fraud in the factor. So fraud in factor means you're lying about the action. An example is a patient goes to a gynecologist, and the gynecologist, instead of testing for the problem or the medical condition or checking up on the patient, this man or woman decides to touch the patient for their own sexual fulfillment. This is fraud, and this is tricking the patient into thinking yes, but they were actually their actual thought was a no, because they agreed to yes, the medical checkup, but they did not agree to satisfying a sexual interest. So this is actually considered to be sexual harassment. Fraud in the inducement means you're lying about the actor. We've seen cases where maybe let's just make up a scenario right now. You're a guy, you go visit your girlfriend has a roommate, the girls leave for a night out, your girlfriend does not, let's say she stays overnight at some other friend's house, then the roommate comes, finds in the bed, then you give consent thinking that this roommate is your girlfriend. Essentially what has happened here is rape, because you consented thinking that this girl was your girlfriend and she fooled you into thinking this is her. So this is essentially rape, because you consented but you did not consent to having sex with the roommate. You consented to having sex with your girlfriend. So you've been tricked into saying yes. There is also the concept of duress and how it nullifies consent. When you agree under duress, it's called acquiescence. An example is a student agreeing to have sex with a lecturer because they are afraid of failing. This is already intimidation, because he's in a higher level than you. There's something that you are bound to lose if you say no. Okay, so basically for me, positive consent would essentially look like me explicitly agreeing to certain activities, my partner communicating when he changes the degree of the activity, asking me if it's okay, then me using physical cues to tell him he can proceed on to other activities. That is what positive consent would look like for me.